Have you ever noticed that some of the biggest questions are the ones we almost never ask? Here's one of them. Why did ancient humans begin cooking their food? At first, it sounds almost too simple to deserve an answer. But the longer you think about it, the stranger it becomes. Every other animal on Earth eats what nature gives it. A wolf doesn't season its prey before taking a bite. A bear never waits for a fish to brown over a fire. No dolphin has ever prepared dinner before eating it. Yet wherever humans have lived, across every continent, in every climate, through every era of history, we have all done the same remarkable thing. We cook. Think about how unusual that really is. Languages change, religions differ, traditions rise and disappear. Even tools vary from one culture to another, but one habit has followed every human community without exception. Before food reaches our mouths, we change it with heat. If you enjoy exploring the hidden reasons behind ancient human life, consider subscribing, because this story begins with something so ordinary that most of us never stop to question it. Now comes the part that completely changes the conversation. Most people believe cooking exists because it makes food taste better. And yes, it absolutely does. But flavor may not be the real reason you stand in front of a stove today. In a very real biological sense, you cook because your body expects cooked food. That sounds dramatic, but the evidence points in exactly that direction. Over an immense span of evolutionary time, the human body quietly reshaped itself around food that had already been transformed by fire. Compared with our closest primate relatives, our jaws are weaker, our teeth are smaller, our enamel is thinner, our digestive tract is shorter. Piece by piece, our anatomy tells the same story. We are not built like creatures designed to spend hours tearing through raw plants and uncooked meat. We are built like creatures that arrive after fire has already done part of the work. I find that idea fascinating because it completely flips the way we usually think about cooking. It isn't just another useful invention. In many ways, it became part of our biology. These changes were not accidents or flaws. They are living evidence of a decision made so far back in prehistory that no one remembers who made it. Somewhere, an ancestor discovered that heating food changed everything. And generation after generation, natural selection quietly remodeled the human body around that discovery. And the mystery becomes even deeper from there. We still don't know exactly how cooking truly began. Was it an accident after a wildfire? A scorched root that suddenly tasted better? Meat left too close to burning branches? Or did someone slowly discover its value through countless trials over many years? We cannot even say with certainty whether the first intentionally cooked meal came from a plant or an animal. What we do know is far more important. At some forgotten moment in deep prehistory, one individual experienced food touched by fire, realized it offered an extraordinary advantage, and unknowingly set our entire species onto a completely different evolutionary path. To understand why that single moment mattered so much, we have to travel back nearly 2 million years to a world before kitchens, before recipes, and before cooking became one of the defining behaviors that made us human. Before we can understand why cooking changed humanity forever, we have to step into a world where it didn't exist. Imagine East Africa nearly 2 million years ago. There are no villages, no pottery, no campfires glowing after sunset, no smell of roasted meat drifting through the air. Every meal begins and ends exactly as nature provides it. Your ancestors, creatures we now group among the Australopithecines, walked upright across open grasslands. But when it came to food, they still lived much like modern chimpanzees. If they found fruit, they ate it raw. If they dug up roots, they chewed them exactly as they came out of the ground. Tender shoots, bark, insects, and the occasional piece of meat from an opportunity they happened to encounter, everything was consumed without the help of fire. At first glance, that doesn't sound especially difficult. After all, countless animals still survive that way today. The problem is that raw food asks for a tremendous amount of work before it gives anything back. Picture yourself spending almost half of every waking hour doing nothing except chewing. Not exploring, not building, not teaching your children, not planning tomorrow's hunt, just chewing. That was remarkably close to reality. Wild chimpanzees devote an astonishing amount of time simply processing food in their mouths because uncooked plants are packed with tough fibers that resist breaking down. Every bite demands patience. Every meal becomes a long mechanical task. Calories exist inside that food, but nature locks them away behind thick cellular walls and stubborn plant tissue. Your jaw has to do the work that heat will eventually do for humans. That detail might seem small, but it changes everything. Harvard biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham wanted to understand this problem instead of merely reading about it in scientific papers. Rather than observing chimpanzees from a distance, he traveled to Uganda and spent extended periods eating many of the same kinds of wild foods they consumed. The experience was eye-opening. The fruits were fibrous, many tasted bitter, some required endless chewing before they could even be swallowed. After working through a single piece of wild fruit for far longer than most people today would tolerate, the reward was surprisingly small. The amount of usable energy simply didn't match the effort required to obtain it. That personal experience led Wrangham toward an uncomfortable conclusion. The modern human body is no longer equipped to survive indefinitely on the raw diet that once sustained our distant ancestors. Not because we have become weak, not because we've forgotten how, but because evolution has quietly changed the machine itself. Our jaws no longer produce the crushing force of chimpanzees. Our digestive tract is shorter, our teeth are smaller. The entire system expects food that has already been partially broken apart before it ever reaches the stomach. That realization creates an obvious mystery. If our ancestors lived successfully on raw food millions of years ago, but we cannot do the same today without serious biological consequences, what happened in between? Something had to increase the amount of energy available from every bite. Something had to reduce the endless hours spent chewing. Something had to explain why the fossil record suddenly begins showing creatures with different jaws, different teeth, and different digestive systems. So what changed? Wrangham eventually arrived at an answer that challenged one of the most common assumptions about human evolution. For decades, many researchers believed our brains expanded because we started eating more meat. Others argued intelligence itself came first, allowing humans to invent increasingly sophisticated ways of finding food. Wrangham suggested those explanations were pointing in the wrong direction. The real turning point, he argued, was not simply meat. It was not larger brains. It was cooking. In 1999, he formally presented what became known as the cooking hypothesis in the journal Current Anthropology, later expanding the idea into a widely read book. His proposal completely reversed the usual sequence of events. Instead of saying humans became smarter and then invented cooking, he suggested something far more surprising. Humans began cooking first. Only afterward did larger brains become possible. That single reversal changes the entire story. Cooking stops being a clever invention created by intelligent humans. Instead, cooking becomes one of the reasons intelligent humans could exist at all. But for that argument to make sense, we need to understand what heat actually does to food. Most people think cooking simply changes flavor. The chemistry is much more profound. Take a starchy root or grain before it has ever touched a fire. Inside, its starch is packed into dense microscopic granules that digestive enzymes struggle to penetrate. Much of the stored energy remains physically trapped. Now apply heat. Those granules absorb water. They swell. Their tightly organized structure begins to loosen. Scientists call this process gelatinization. Nothing about the food's weight has changed. Nothing new has been added. Yet your body can suddenly access far more of the calories already inside it because fire has unlocked what digestion alone struggled to reach. Proteins undergo a similar transformation. Raw meat contains complex structural proteins, including collagen, that are incredibly resistant to breakdown. Heat causes those proteins to unfold and lose their rigid structure. Once that happens, digestive enzymes can attack them far more efficiently. Fire performs another important service that often goes unnoticed. Many raw plants contain natural defensive chemicals designed to discourage animals from eating them. Raw meat and other uncooked foods can also carry dangerous microorganisms. Heating destroys many of these hazards, making foods both safer and more useful than they were moments before. Then comes one of the most familiar changes of all, even if few people know its scientific name. When proteins and natural sugars meet high temperatures, they undergo what chemists call the Maillard reaction. It creates the rich aromas of roasted meat, toasted bread, and browned vegetables while producing entirely new flavor compounds that never existed in the raw ingredients. Layer all of these transformations together, and cooking begins to look less like a recipe and more like an external digestive system. Instead of asking your body to perform every step itself, fire completes part of the work before your first bite. The result is simple but revolutionary. Your digestive system spends less energy extracting nutrients. Your body gains more usable calories. And suddenly, every meal becomes far more valuable than it was in the raw world your ancestors once inhabited. That single advantage would eventually reshape not only what humans ate, but everything they became. The benefits of cooking didn't stop with extracting more calories. There was another reward that may have been just as valuable, and it's surprisingly easy to overlook: time. Think about how much of your day disappears when every bite demands endless chewing. For early hominins living entirely on raw food, eating wasn't simply another daily activity. It consumed an enormous portion of their waking lives. Wrangham estimates that before cooking became common, our ancestors may have spent close to half of every day chewing, not because they enjoyed it, but because survival demanded it. Raw plants, roots, and meat required constant mechanical effort before the body could even begin digesting them. Once food was regularly exposed to fire, that burden changed dramatically. Meals that once demanded hours of grinding and chewing could be finished in a fraction of the time. Modern humans typically spend around an hour each day eating. Even allowing for differences between ancient and modern life, the contrast is extraordinary. Imagine reclaiming 4 or 5 extra hours every single day. Not once, not for a season, but for generation after generation across hundreds of thousands of years. That is an astonishing amount of time returned to a species. Those newly available hours could be invested almost anywhere. Groups could organize hunts more carefully instead of rushing from one meal to the next. Better stone tools could be shaped with patience instead of exhaustion. Parents could spend longer teaching children skills that would keep them alive. Relationships inside the group had room to grow because survival no longer demanded that every waking moment revolve around chewing. Even rest began to change. A controlled fire pushed many nighttime predators farther away, making open camps far safer than they had been before. Instead of retreating individually into trees or isolated hiding places, people could remain together around a shared source of warmth and light. Longer, safer sleep meant bodies recovered better, and stronger, healthier individuals were more capable of facing the next day's challenges. In my view, this is one of the most remarkable consequences of cooking. Fire didn't simply give humans more energy, it gave them more hours to decide how that energy would be used. Sometimes an extra hour can transform a single day. Imagine what millions of extra hours could do across countless generations. As food became easier to process, exploration also became less risky. Groups could travel farther from familiar territory because they no longer had to dedicate nearly every moment to finding and chewing enough food. They could observe new landscapes, remember seasonal resources, and begin planning beyond the immediate needs of the next meal. Little by little, survival became less reactive and more deliberate. That shift may sound subtle, but it marks an important turning point. The campfire was no longer just a place where food happened to be cooked. It became the center of daily life. It offered warmth during cold nights. It discouraged predators from approaching too closely. It provided a reliable gathering place where people could meet, cooperate, exchange ideas, and recover after long days of searching for food. In many ways, the fire created something every successful human community would later depend on: a shared space. From that shared space came stronger cooperation. From stronger cooperation came better survival. And every generation that inherited those advantages had another opportunity to build upon them. Cooking, then, wasn't simply changing what people ate. It was quietly changing how they lived. But if this transformation was truly as powerful as it appears, we should expect to find evidence not only in behavior, but inside the human body itself. And that is exactly where the story leads next. Around 1.8 million years ago, the fossil record begins revealing a series of physical changes that are difficult to ignore. They appear with remarkable timing, and together they raise one unavoidable question: did cooking merely improve human life, or did it actually help build the kind of human body we recognize today? There is, however, one piece of this story that researchers no longer argue about. You don't have to travel back a million years to see what happens when humans abandon cooked food entirely. In many ways, the evidence is still around us. Long-term studies of people living on a strictly raw food diet reveal a remarkably consistent pattern. Over time, many participants lose weight even when they believe they are eating enough. The reason is surprisingly simple. Their bodies spend so much energy chewing, digesting, and processing uncooked food that they recover fewer usable calories than they would from the same ingredients after cooking. In other words, the body begins falling behind. One of the clearest warning signs appears in reproduction. Researchers have found that a significant proportion of women who remain on a long-term raw food diet eventually stop menstruating. This isn't a random side effect. It's the body's emergency response to an energy shortage. When calories become too unreliable, reproduction is one of the first systems to be temporarily shut down in order to protect basic survival. Think about what that would have meant for an ancient population. A way of eating that regularly prevented people from reproducing wouldn't simply make life harder, it would eventually make the population disappear. That perspective changes how we think about cooking. It wasn't merely a clever improvement that made meals more enjoyable. It became one of the conditions that allowed human populations to keep growing across countless generations. Personally, I think this is one of the easiest details to underestimate. We often imagine evolution rewarding the strongest hunter or the smartest inventor, but sometimes the decisive advantage is far quieter. It is simply the habit that allows more children to survive, more families to grow, and more knowledge to pass from one generation to the next. Yet cooking transformed more than our bodies. It also changed the way people live together. Fire is unlike almost any other resource in nature. It cannot simply be found and forgotten. It has to be started. It has to be watched. It has to be protected from rain, wind, and neglect. If the flames die, someone must work to bring them back. That simple reality naturally encouraged cooperation. While one person searched for food, another could remain behind tending the fire. When hunters returned, everyone benefited from keeping the flames alive. A shared fire rewarded teamwork in a way that surviving completely alone never could. Some anthropologists believe this may even have encouraged one of humanity's earliest forms of division of labor. Not because people were following fixed social rules, but because cooperation simply became the most efficient strategy. A dependable partner guarding the hearth while someone else gathered food offered an obvious advantage over individuals trying to do everything by themselves. The fire gradually became more than a tool. It became a destination. As evening arrived and darkness spread across the landscape, people gathered around the same source of warmth. Predators were less willing to approach. Bellies were fuller than they had been before cooking. And, perhaps most importantly, the endless hours once consumed by chewing had largely disappeared. For the first time, there was time left over. Time to talk, time to laugh, time to teach. Imagine an older hunter explaining which berries should never be eaten. A parent showing a child how to shape a stone blade. Someone warning the group about a valley where dangerous animals often waited. None of those lessons needed to be rediscovered by every new generation if they could simply be told. Stories became something much larger than entertainment. They became a survival tool. Knowledge no longer had to die with the person who first discovered it. A child could inherit experiences they had never lived through. Entire groups could remember dangerous places, successful hunting grounds, or useful plants without every individual repeating the same costly mistakes. When I think about this, the most fascinating part isn't that fire cooked food. It's that fire created an environment where ideas could be shared night after night. In a sense, the flames weren't only transforming meat or roots, they were helping transform memory into culture. The campfire fed the body first, but over time, it also fed conversation, cooperation, teaching, and collective memory. And perhaps that was the greatest transformation of all. Cooking didn't simply help build a larger brain. It helped create a world where that larger brain finally had the time, the safety, and the community needed to become unmistakably human. So the next time you find yourself standing in the kitchen late at night, scraping burnt food from the bottom of a pan, or waiting for dinner to finish cooking, pause for just a moment. What feels like an ordinary chore is actually part of a tradition so ancient that it reaches back long before cities, long before farming, long before writing, and perhaps even before the first true language was ever spoken. With every meal you cook, you're repeating an act that began around a small fire somewhere on the African savanna more than 1,000,000 years ago. That simple decision to place food over heat didn't just make dinner easier, it quietly reshaped our species. It reduced the size of our jaws, shortened our digestive system, freed precious hours from endless chewing, protected our nights, and created the conditions for families, communities, and knowledge to grow from one generation to to the next. To me, that's the most remarkable part of this story. Cooking isn't simply something humans invented. Over time, it became one of the forces that helped invent the humans we are today. So the next time you prepare a meal, remember that you're taking part in one of the oldest traditions our species has ever known. If this story changed the way you look at something as ordinary as cooking, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear which part surprised you the most. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden history behind everyday human behavior, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who'd appreciate it, and subscribe for more journeys into our ancient past.